Good morning. Thank you very much to Deputy Mayor Skavuza and Minister Madia for hosting this very important gathering. I would like to suggest that the subject of our gathering, participation, is of vital significance for Europe today. Let me explain. Despite some recent signs of slow economic recovery, many European countries have been facing some significant challenges on account of globalization, such as sluggish wages and rising inequality, aging population and youth unemployment, and refugee crises and backlash against immigration. As a result, citizens have been feeling left behind or worse off, generating a sense of injustice and erosion of cultural identity, insecurity about the loss of jobs, and threats from terrorism and migration, which has fueled also by rising xenophobia. Now, the important thing to note is that citizens have not only felt worse off, but they have also felt powerless, without a meaningful voice or influence on government, which they felt is captured by elites that are disconnected from their concerns or unresponsive to their needs. In this context, the issue of citizen trust in government, which Deputy Mayor Minister Madia talked about, has become centrally important. The Edelman Barometer of 2018 shows that citizen trust in government, which was already at an all-time low, has continued to plummet in advanced Western democracies, including in Europe. And strikingly, China has emerged as the most trusted government on earth. Think about it. That poses a significant challenge for Europe. Now, in this context, anti-establishment movements in Europe and North America have stoked this underlying distrust to call for a wholesale rejection of the entire system. And even though in some countries right here in Europe, voters have kept radical forces out of office, in other countries, populist leaders, even authoritarian leaders have risen to power. So this issue of citizen distrust threatens the very foundations of democracy. And in this context, the subject of participation is so important because we need new frontiers of participation so citizens genuinely feel that they can influence and shape policies that affect their day-to-day lives. And for this, business as usual must change. You see, this problem of distrust has arisen in countries that are already quite open and have traditional consultation mechanisms. So the next frontier of participation has to go further. People today don't just want to have their vote, only have their vote once, 3, 4, 5 years. They don't want to only engage in traditional consultation methods, which they feel can be captured by special interests. In the age of technological advancement and hyperconnectivity, the expectations of citizens on democratic participation has itself been changing. People today want spontaneous, creative ways to make their voices heard and to shape policies on things they care most about. In this context, let me just quickly share 3 frontiers of participation, new frontiers of participation that we are seeing some OGP countries undertake, which can show a more hopeful way forward and that we'll hear more about during the day. The first frontier that I want to talk to you about is when there is direct citizen engagement to visibly shape policies that they care about. So in Estonia, citizens engaged online and offline through a People's Assembly Rahavakogu platform to crowdsource, prioritize, and vote on policy proposals to amend electoral and political party laws, and they also crowdsource solutions to overhaul the pension system. In Paris and Madrid, Government has undertaken participatory budgeting so citizens can directly set priorities and fund projects that they care about. Right here in Italy, the Open Coesione project has disclosed details of 1 million projects amounting to over 100 billion euros to empower citizens, civil society, journalists, and train thousands of students to become citizen monitors to oversee projects that they care about. The second frontier that I want to mention is deliberative participation. For instance, in Canada's Open Dialogue, where citizens go in depth on complex policy issues, they debate trade-offs, they do pros and cons, use evidence to guide decisions that affect them. In the UK's Brexit Citizen Assembly, they brought together a cross-section of voters who voted differently on Brexit, but they then facilitated deep deliberative processes where they looked at trade-offs and came up with recommendations which was tabled to Parliament and government. That's the second frontier of deep deliberation. And the third frontier is inclusion. As we foster more participation, we need to ensure that the most vulnerable groups, the elderly, the young, the minorities, are included in participatory processes. Finland is a very good example where they have systematically engaged with the elderly and with the youth and the vulnerable groups in policy-making processes. And one very important frontier I want to table before you, European leaders here today, is to use participatory processes to involve marginalized youth and migrant communities at risk to mitigate the risk of radicalization. A couple of years ago, when I was vice president at the World Bank, I was looking at the issue of youth radicalization, and we found that the drivers of youth radicalization in Europe and the Middle East was when youth had grievances, but they felt excluded. In Germany, the first National Action Plan has a commitment in OGP to, in fact, do a competition, incentivize, reward, and disclose innovative ways in which local communities are integrating migrants. So I've very quickly given you some examples of 3 frontiers of participation. They're inspiring examples, but you know, the main point is they're too few and far between. That is why here at the European Open Government Forum, we call upon you, European leaders, to join forces and scale up these innovative reforms across countries inside the EU, as Minister Madea said, so you can role model it and show the world a different way forward and create a countervailing force to deepen citizen distrust in government. And for this, OGP provides a very good platform for EU and OGP to partner together, because OGP, 22 member countries of EU, 22 out of 28 are OGP members. OGP has an international laboratory of participatory experiences over the years, and OGP offers a ready platform of government, civil society, citizen partnership, which can be used to advance participation. So let me close by just saying that business as usual has to change. This issue of citizen distrust and the specter of populism can threaten the very foundations of democracy in Europe and around the world. So we close by calling on European leaders, EU, OGP, and key partners like the OECD to join forces to scale up these reforms in genuine citizen empowerment and active citizenship. So we create a countervailing force against these troubling global trends and truly deliver on the precious promise of government, that government exists to truly serve and empower its citizens. Thank you very much.